Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer and trace the absolutely fascinating journey of the electron. I mean, we're totally surrounded by screens, gadgets, and increasingly electric vehicles, right? But the actual beating heart of all this tech is something most of us rarely stop to think about. I'm talking about the lithium-ion battery.
So how does a simple chemical reaction power your entire digital life? It's a great question, and to answer it, we're going to break down the chemistry happening right inside the device you are literally holding in your hand or looking at right now. We aren't just going to look at what a battery does, we're going to look at exactly how it forces atoms to do our bidding, storing massive amounts of energy in these incredibly tiny portable spaces.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. 1. The battery engine. 2. Galvanic and electrolytic cells. 3. The lithium-ion revolution. 4. Inside the rocking chair. And finally, number 5, degradation and battery safety.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the battery engine.
Look, at its absolute core, a battery is really just a device that converts chemical energy into electrical energy by forcing electrons to move. Now, before we go any further, we have to clearly establish the foundation of any electrochemical system, the anode and the cathode. You can kind of think of these as the two opposing end zones on a football field. They're electrodes, typically made of metal, sitting inside a chemical solution. The whole game, the entire purpose of a battery, is to create a scenario where electrons desperately want to travel from the anode to the cathode. By forcing those electrons to travel through an outside wire to get there, we can harness their movement to, turn on a light bulb or run a smartphone processor.
And this perfectly illustrates the critical difference between oxidation and reduction, which is all about whether a substance is losing or acquiring electrons. Honestly, the best trick to remember this is the old saying, Leo says jur. Losing electrons is oxidation, gaining electrons is reduction. Over at the anode, atoms are giving up their electrons. They're being oxidized. Those freed electrons then race through your device's circuitry right over to the cathode. Once they arrive, different atoms eagerly accept them. They're being reduced. This chemical desire to give and take electrons, that is the invisible engine driving everything you do online.
A really good way to visualize this is to think of a battery's voltage like water pressure pushing through a pipe, while the current is the actual volume of water flowing to power your device. Voltage is basically just the difference in electric potential between the anode and the cathode. Higher voltage means a much stronger push. Current, which we measure in amps, is the actual rate those electrons are flowing. Both are absolutely essential for delivering usable power. To put it in real-world terms, think about starting a car versus running a wristwatch. A car battery needs a massive sudden flood of water, a really high current, to crank that heavy engine. A watch, on the other hand, just needs this tiny slow trickle of current over a super long period. But both rely on this exact same fundamental relationship.
Moving right along to Section 2, galvanic versus electrolytic cells. So let's look at the two mirror image ways this electron flow actually happens in real-world cells. Understanding this dual nature is literally the key to understanding how rechargeable batteries work. Notice how a galvanic cell naturally generates electricity, which contrasts perfectly with an electrolytic cell, which requires outside electricity to force a reaction. Think about it. When you're using your phone, the battery is acting as a galvanic cell. A spontaneous chemical reaction is happening inside, releasing energy to run your screen. But when your battery dies and you plug it into the wall, it suddenly becomes an electrolytic cell. You're using the electricity from your wall to force that chemical reaction to run in reverse, packing the chemical energy right back into the cell for later. It can get a little confusing, so if you ever get turned around, just come back to these golden rules. Let's actually slow down for a second here, because understanding these pairings is a crucial takeaway. Galvanic equals generates. Electrolytic equals requires. And no matter which way the battery is operating, oxidation always happens at the anode, and reduction always happens at the cathode. That right there is the absolute bedrock of all battery chemistry.
All right, Section 3, the lithium-ion revolution.
For a really long time, batteries were just heavy, they used toxic heavy metals, and honestly, they couldn't hold much charge. We needed something completely new for the portable electronics era. Let's trace the Nobel Prize-winning history of the lithium-ion battery. Back in the 1970s, M. Stanley Whittingham used a titanium disulfide cathode and a metallic lithium anode. It worked, but metallic lithium is highly unstable, like very prone to catching fire. Then, in 1980, John Goodenough vastly improved the design by using lithium cobalt oxide for the cathode, which was way more stable and gave a much higher voltage. Finally, in 1985, Akira Yoshino solved the explosive metallic lithium problem altogether by using a petroleum coke carbon anode that could safely absorb the lithium ions. This trio actually won the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for this exact sequence of breakthroughs. Pretty amazing.
And the impact of scaling this technology? It's staggering. Between Sony commercializing it in 1991 and 2018, the cost of lithium-ion cells plummeted by exactly 97%. At the same time, their volumetric energy density tripled. This dramatic drop in price, combined with that massive increase in efficiency, is the singular reason why things like electric vehicles and modern smartphones went from pure science fiction to our everyday reality.
Which brings us to Section 4, Inside the Rocking Chair.
Okay, so we've talked about the history, but what's actually physically moving inside the battery? I absolutely love this analogy because it perfectly explains how lithium ions just swing back and forth. It allows the battery to act as a galvanic cell when it's discharging and an electrolytic cell when you plug it in. Instead of permanently altering the electrodes, the lithium ions physically insert themselves into the molecular structure of the graphite anode during charging. We call that process intercalation. Then, when discharging, they literally rock right back through the liquid electrolyte over to the cobalt oxide cathode. It's just this beautifully reversible physical and chemical dance.
And because it uses lithium, a single gram of the metal stores 41.7 kilojoules of energy, giving these specific batteries an insanely high energy density. To put that into perspective for you, that is literally more than the heat of combustion of gasoline. Lithium is the lightest solid element on the periodic table, which means we can pack a tremendous amount of electrical potential into a very, very lightweight package.
Now, have you ever wondered why your phone charges incredibly fast up to like 80%, but then seems to take absolutely forever to reach 100%? Well, it's because of these 3 stages. To manage all that stored energy safely, the battery actually undergoes these distinct steps every single time you recharge it. You can't just blast a lithium-ion battery with a continuous heavy charge. First, it gets a constant current while the voltage slowly rises. Then, if it's a multi-cell pack, the system briefly balances the cells so one doesn't overcharge. Finally, it hits the maximum safe voltage, usually right around 4.2 volts per cell, and holds that constant voltage while the current gently drops all the way to 0.
Let's move to our final segment, Section 5, Degradation and Battery Safety.
As amazing as these things are, these chemical marvels do have physical limits. Every single time you charge and discharge, microscopic damage is occurring. Here are the primary mechanisms for why your battery slowly dies over time. First, the SEI, or solid electrolyte interface. It's a protective film that forms on the anode. It's totally necessary for the battery to work, but over time it grows thicker and thicker, permanently trapping lithium ions. Those trapped ions become dead lithium and can no longer rock back and forth, meaning your battery's total capacity drops. Also, think of the electrodes inside like a sponge, soaking up water and drying out over and over. That constant swelling and shrinking as ions enter and leave causes real microscopic structural cracking.
Another huge issue is lithium plating. If you charge too fast or if you charge in the cold, the lithium ions just can't squeeze into the graphite fast enough. Instead, they pile up on the surface as solid, metallic, needle-like structures called dendrites instead of cleanly intercalating. Remember earlier when we said Whittingham's original battery caught fire because of metallic lithium? Well, these dendrites threaten to pierce the battery's internal separator. This is exactly why you should never ever leave your phone in a freezing car and then try to fast charge it. Because if those dendrites cause an internal short circuit, or if the flammable liquid electrolyte gets mechanically abused, like crushed or punctured, it can lead to dangerous thermal runaway. We need to be super clear about this. Thermal runaway is exactly what it sounds like. It's a self-feeding loop. The cell heats up, causing the electrolyte to rapidly decompose, which releases more heat and oxygen, eventually leading to a full-on fire or explosion. This is exactly why lithium-ion batteries require such rigid safety systems, thermal sensors, and tough protective casing.
All of this really illustrates why we have to treat our electronics well. Because even under perfect 25 degrees Celsius room temperature conditions, standard lithium-ion batteries are expected to irreversibly lose about 20% of their charge in just 3 to 5 years. It's just an unavoidable reality of the chemistry. And storing them fully charged or exposing them to high heat, that drastically accelerates this degradation. This is the exact reason why your 3-year-old laptop barely holds a charge the second you unplug it from the wall.
Which leaves us with this really exciting question. Have we reached the limits of the rocking chair battery, or will new chemistries unlock even greater power?
We've mapped the electron's journey today from the basic galvanic cell all the way up to the highly sophisticated lithium-ion packs powering modern electric cars. We understand that brilliant rocking chair mechanism now, but we also see the very real physical limits and safety hurdles posed by liquid electrolytes and dendrites. The next great energy revolution is waiting just over the horizon, and understanding these fundamentals, well, that's exactly how we're going to get there. Thanks for exploring the science of this explainer with me.